why Tutankhamun's mummy was so dark. Like it literally looked like it was black. And the reason for that is there was an internal fire within his sarcophagus. So because he was not really preserved great, it was okay, but the method and the materials that are used for mummifying actually create chemical reactions. And so when you put them inside of sealed sarcophagi, you get combustion. And there was a fire within.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, within the layers of his sarcophagi, there was a fire that stemmed from the resins that were used to seal possibly the sarcophagus itself or the resins from him. But he doesn't look really damaged. He's just sort of dark, but you can actually see there is fire damage too. Now, it would have gone out fairly quickly with the lack of oxygen, but
Right.
the fact that it was able to combust and actually, to
Wow.
catch fire for however short a period of time, it may have only been a few minutes, but you can see that there's this black. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting. That was something that came out not that long ago, where they were doing some more testing and more work and that on preserving the tomb and trying to bring it into a better condition, because it is disintegrating and it is degrading. So yeah, so let's. I guess Rachel didn't make it in, so here we are.
Yep.
Oh well, Rachel, I don't know where you are, but hopefully everything's good. So let's see. Like, is there anything, Ian, that you find unusual about the story itself or the circumstances, or is there anything that maybe I might know or not know? I mean, I don't know everything about this story, but I certainly know a fair bit. But I won't say I'm an expert on Tut, but
Um, just why was his burial rushed?
well,
It,
I guess, yeah, it was rushed because he wasn't expected to die. He was only
because there
19.
was there was definitely evidence that it was rushed,
Yeah.
and why the panic to get him in the tomb and get it sealed up and
Well, there is, okay, so in the concept of burial, there is a certain timeline, right? Remember, we're in a climate that's incredibly hot. Bodies don't last very long in the heat. So as a pharaoh, you would have wanted to have that body preserved as quickly as possible. It takes approximately 70 days to mummify a body, right? So from the time he died to the time of his mummification and preparation, they may have had 90 days. So they had about 90 days to get this tomb ready. That's not a lot of time when you think about it. But also, too, I mean, he was 19 years old. So was he expected to die? I mean, he wasn't healthy. We kind of know that already. There's some evidence to say that he suffered seizures of some sort, whether they were epileptic seizures or something to that effect. But we also know, I mean, by this time, this family's incredibly inbred, right? I mean, his father and his mother are at best half brother and sister, or possibly full brother and sister. Tut's wife is his half sister. So there's a lot of things that go on when we start doing this, right? Akhenaten himself, and Tut's father, he was deformed. He was possibly a hermaphrodite, which would explain some of his unusual physique, his wider hips and his narrower shoulders. And, there was quite a bit of femininity about him, apparently. But so we've got a lot of inbreeding. Tut was born with a lot of issues. He had a horrible overbite that,
yeah.
was just probably, he had a lot of difficulty chewing, I would suspect, even with that overbite that he had. He had, like I said, seizures. He likely had a club foot. He was born with a club foot. So he walked with a cane. And we know this because they found many beautiful walking sticks in his tomb. But also looking at the mummy and, doing sort of the analysis on it later, you could see. So there was a lot of things wrong with this kid. Um, the story, which whether it's true or not true, again, because I'm not, we're not there, we're not in the time. His death, people like to say that he rode into battle and was possibly crushed by a chariot, and the back of his skull, and he hit his head, and all of these things. And so obviously he's royal, he's a king, they want to glorify it. I'm not sure Tut ever rolled into any kind of battle, but
Right.
again, it's one of those things where there might be some evidence to say that maybe he was there, but did he actually fight? Who knows? What a more sort of medical prognosis was is that he suffered a seizure, and he fell backwards and he hit his head, and that put him into a coma, and he never came out of that coma. He also broke his leg at some point as well. And this is kind of where they get into this whole chariot thing. But being somebody who essentially is so inbred over, a number of years, and you've got all these genetic problems, I wouldn't be surprised that he didn't have some sort of brittle bone disease or osteoarthritis, and that too, which could have easily, something as simple as having a seizure and falling down. You could break an arm, you could break a leg. So, there's these stories, right? I mean, again, there's still people working on these things. Will we ever 100% know? Probably not.
Probably not. No.
But, again, I don't think it was expected that he was going to die. So within that time period of mummification to, the point of burial, it was a very short run. Some say that the gold mask was not created for him, and that it was resized, but that's kind of lately been disputed, and they do believe that the mask was actually created for him, possibly by materials that were set aside for someone else, like his uncle or anyone else that was much older, but they used it to, and craftspeople of that time, these were top craftspeople, and probably 3 months to complete that mask, I'm sure would have been doable by the very best, right? By the very best of those people. But, here's something that's interesting. So let's kind of look at, I want to go down this list because I find it really fun. This is kind of the list of the curse. Okay, so if we roll this list under the microscope, so to say, let's kind of look at what happened, right? So the beginning, right? What happened from 1922 when they first opened the tomb, and a few of the people, and there's also pets connected to this. So this gets, so Carter had a pet canary and it got eaten by a cobra. Is that so unusual? Probably not in the Egyptian desert. But cobras at that time are linked to the Egyptian monarchy. So it was believed that the royal cobra was released in Carter's home, because this was in his home, as a symbol of how the king strikes back at his enemies. So that was another part of the rumors of the curse. So then we get Carnarvon, who sponsored the dig. And of course, his cause of death was blood poisoning or septicemia. And he was bitten by a mosquito, accidentally cut himself and cut it while he was shaving. It got infected and he died of blood poisoning. So the saying is that mosquito bites in the same location was in the same location as a lesion that Tut had on his cheek. But since Carnarvon died, there was no formal autopsy, so no one can confirm if this is true. Then we have Sir Bruce Ingham, Carter's friend. His house burned down twice. So Ingham received paperweights made from a mummified hand with a wrist that was adorned with a scarab bracelet marked, "Cursed be he who moves my body. And so to him will come fire, water, and pestilence." So no one has any explanation for this bad luck. Carter didn't believe in any curses. And